welcome to the Deepers Creepers podcast, where we like to get high and talk about horror movies. I'm Casey.
I'm Jess, and we have a very special guest this week.
Hi, I'm Zach.
He's back, and now you can see him.
Yeah.
Guess who's back again.
I like to work my arms.
It is Zach.
So I got a bad back.
So it begins.
So, if our listeners who are listening / watching have previously listened to the Taking of Deborah Logan episode, this is a guest, our first returning guest.
Yes.
Oh, shit.
He was our first guest
Check me
ever and our
out.
first returning. So,
Okay.
someone likes us.
I do.
And yeah, he chose Taking of Deborah Logan first. Because it was a movie that neither Jess nor I had seen, but he was
so
very
scary.
And
excited.
it's phenomenal.
And it's, one of his favorite modern horror movies, one of the scariest modern
Top
horror
3
movies I've ever seen.
Honestly.
And with the new Scream 6 coming out next month, we decided we wanted to kind of do just a general laid-back episode about all of them. We're going to kind of go through the first one and all the sequels. And of course, we had to have our baby Zach back on because it is his favorite. Is Scream your favorite horror movie of all time? Or
Give
is
him
it
a top
Texas?
3.
I
Give him a
was
top
talking.
3.
I was talking to Jess on the drive here, and I said, if I am allowed a top 3,
Mhm.
it's Scream, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and The Taking of Deborah Logan.
Love that.
That's
That's
my
amazing.
top
Love
3
that.
if I had to.
If I had to, I guess Silence of the Lambs, because of course, I have my little Hannibal, probably Pulp Fiction. Those have always been my top 2. If I'm allowed a third, it's probably Scream. This is my favorite horror franchise. I will
Same.
say that.
Yeah.
Out of all the big ones, all the small ones, everything.
100%.
And the more I watch this franchise, the more and more I'm convinced that Sidney Prescott is my favorite horror character in all of existence.
Solid.
Yeah.
She's
can't.
my favorite final girl for sure.
Oh.
Has been for a while, but she just may be my favorite horror character.
She's great from start to finish, and I'm really nervous about the new movie without her presence, but I'm going to go in with an open mind
Yes.
and try not to let nostalgia be the reason that I don't.
Yes.
Like I put up a wall,
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. So I'm going to try to go in with open mind, open heart.
And everything Radio Silence has done, I have loved.
Oh,
They
yeah.
did a VHS segment. They did, of course, this Scream. They did Ready or Not.
Ready or Not is so good.
It's really
so fucking
good.
good. If listeners haven't seen it, it's
Yeah.
hysterically funny. I love that fucking movie.
And Samara Weaving from Ready or Not is going to be in Scream 6, which I'm
Oh!
super fucking excited.
I didn't
You
know Samara
I didn't know that either.
Yeah. They just released pictures of
Oh,
her
I just got
from
chills
the
a
set.
little bit.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Because she's next level.
She is.
Also, like, how is she Australian and does an American accent?
She's
that
Hugo
good?
Weaving's niece. So Agent Smith / Lord Elrond, that's his niece. Samara Weaving,
Okay,
which
fine.
they're both Australian, makes sense.
I had no idea.
I learned that from an episode on one of my favorite YouTube channels, Dead Meat.
Deadbeat.
And yeah, I was like, oh, okay.
That's
I
insane.
learned some things about Scream from that channel too, which
Yeah.
one of them I have as one of my little notes here.
Yeah.
Oh, I love those. They match your hair so perfectly.
Thank you. I got them today. I don't want people to know where we live. I got them at a vintage store.
Love them. Local vintage.
Yeah, I don't want you guys to come find me. Anyways, thank you so much.
Your living room furniture looks great from the yard.
Bold of you to assume that I have furniture.
She's got blankets instead of curtains.
I'm sorry, but
Okay, that's a personal attack.
You told me that in confidence, but
No, it's true.
gloves are off, bitch.
I really
Also-
do like ripped blankets.
Also, you look through those windows, you don't see furniture no matter how close or how far you are. You just see a dog.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say you just see those titties.
I mean, they
No
do
matter
enter,
how far or how wide.
They do enter a room like 5 seconds before you do.
Oh, I know. My reputation.
I I had to buy mine.
My anxiety arrives
She's
about
like-
5 minutes before
She was
I do.
just
So.
born stacked. It's cute.
Who, me?
Yeah.
No.
Cute.
Listen, I got fat after my dad died.
Heard.
The only good thing that came out of my dad dying was these titties. Let me have that.
Okay.
I got
All
fat
right.
for no reason.
Fair
so.
enough. I just thought like maybe it's where all of the flaming hot Cheetos went.
That too.
They just, like,
It's
rested.
a storage for
They
them.
just- yeah.
I'm like
I
a
need to eat
squirrel.
more flaming hot Cheetos.
Big juicy hugaboos.
Big
Mm.
All right,
Cheetos.
we're already really fucking.
Today's podcast is about Jess's tits and nothing else.
That
Every podcast is about Jess.
I know. I
She's
told
the
you.
boobs. I'm the brain.
They
that's
pull
just how it
focus.
is.
Alright.
So anyway, this is going to be a very loosely structured episode. Loose
As you
butthole.
can see.
Very loose butthole. So
I told you that in
gaping.
confidence.
So anyway, but I think we should all kind of just start off, sort of saying what the franchise means to us, where we started with it, and then we're going to kind of go through each movie little by little. After we go through the first movie, as we go through the sequels, each of us have, in secret, not told each other, sort of, we know which one his is, picked our favorite sequel. Obviously, the original is still the best, always will be.
Yeah.
Picked our favorite sequel, not for any... This is not a definitive. This is not me going to be saying facts. This is why this is the best. This is just opinion. This is our personal favorite.
It's why it's the best to me.
Yes,
Exactly.
why I love it more than the other sequels. No sequel is bad. No Scream movie has ever been bad. I love them all. But
We'll
I
get
don't
into
care.
it.
We'll get into
We'll get into it.
not every sequel
I know which
has
one you
been
don't like.
great. But, oh no, I don't know which one you don't like. And what if it's the one I picked? Listen, don't take my horror card away. Nobody. You're
I
not
don't-
allowed to take my
no,
horror
I don't
card away.
care. I went into this knowing that we all just succinctly agreed that
Yes.
the original is the best.
Yes.
It's the benchmark for so many horror films that followed.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
We'll talk
It
about its
kind of
influence.
made horror comedy a genre in the first place. Like, we would have no Tucker and Dale versus Evil. We would have no
Cabin in the
Little
Woods.
Monsters, no Cabin in the
Yeah.
Woods.
Mhm.
Like,
We wouldn't have Bride of Chucky.
thank you.
Bride of Chucky came out 2 years after,
2 years
and
after.
Don Mancini felt he wanted to resurrect his baby, which is the Child's Play series. He is the creator. He wanted to resurrect the series because he wanted to take it in a new light. He's like, oh, slashers are dead. Let Child's Play die. Oh, funny slashers are in. Let me make it meta and funny.
Exactly.
And that's how we got Bride of Chucky. That's how
That's
we got
awesome.
Seed of Chucky. That's how we got Cult
Mhm.
Curse. And now we
Yeah.
have this wonderful TV show.
Yeah.
So
I love
Exactly.
this series, we as horror fans owe a lot to it. But yeah, after we go through all the sequels, I think it would be fun, since we're going to cover the new one in a few weeks, to kind of speculate on what we think might happen.
Mhm.
Okay,
And
for
then
sure.
look back in a few weeks and see how
Yeah.
wrong and stupid we
I have
look.
some thoughts.
Perfect.
I keep looking straight to camera like I'm Jim in The Office.
No, yeah, that
And,
I do too, yeah.
It's just like, I can't wait to watch this back and see how many times I'm just like,
Oh, I look at the camera a lot. Sometimes when I'm talking to the audience, I talk to them. If I'm talking to you, I talk
Yeah.
to you.
I
Um,
just
I wish I
look
could do the Jim
around.
face. Like,
I'm really bad at like breaking the fourth
Turn
wall.
around.
Like anytime we've ever filmed anything, because Robert and I used to film silent horror films and screen them at our Halloween party.
That's so cool.
Back when the Halloween party was tiny.
okay,
and
way
there
to get
were, like,
lazy.
Yeah. They were like, well, this is back when there were like 13 people there, tops. So we could do stuff like that.
Right.
What do you
Now,
mean though? Like
it's-
you have a bigger audience now. Like
I know, but anyway, it's just something we did. And when we would film it, I was supposed to be, the helpless victim. And I would keep looking directly at
Just
camera.
spike in the camera.
And I would like say
Oh my
my
God.
lines directly to camera. Like I'd be on the phone and I'd be like, who is this?
I was so busy being an astrophysicist.
And just look right at the camera, and Robert's like, you have to stop breaking the fourth fucking wall. We've been over this.
The camera
ad
is the one
nauseam."
place you don't look.
I just couldn't do. Well, he's putting a camera right there in my face, and
I mean, it's talent to be able to not look
Yeah.
right there.
I know. Thank
Like-
you. So, so anyway,
All right. So yeah. this franchise is kind of huge. I guess we'll just kind of start off by talking about the first one, and we'll kind of go through how much this movie means to us and this community in general. I don't care if you don't like this movie. If you don't, you're wrong. But also, just this movie.
You should look inward. If you don't like Scream, like
you must hate yourself.
I am so sorry.
You hate fun
for whoever hurt you.
Its influence cannot be overstated.
No.
Right.
So the original Scream came out in 1996, created and directed by Wes Craven, written by Kevin Williamson. Kevin Williamson, I think, deserves just as much credit as Wes Craven does. Obviously, Wes made it one of the most iconic movies of all time. He made it terrifying. One of my other favorite franchises of all time is Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, Wes Craven is iconic. There are very few directors who will ever hit the level that he did.
Oh, absolutely.
But Kevin Williamson's script and the humor that he put into this movie, I mean, he deserves just as much credit because his humor and the meta and the everything is what made this movie as big as it is.
Yeah.
100%.
I think I noticed, like, once I was a gay man in his 30s, it's become crystal clear that Scream was written by a gay man in his 30s.
Yeah.
Because it's so savage. But the humor is so smart. But it's just, like, the way that, like, Randy and Stu make fun of each other, and it's so biting.
Yeah.
And it's, like, it's two gay men at the club.
Yep.
That's their dynamic. And it's, like, little things like that throughout. Now that I watch it, and I've had 25 years, Jesus, to look back. Because I saw Scream in the theater in December of 1996. I saw it opening night.
Oh,
I know that you were too. Get the fuck. It's been fun. Yes, I'm significantly older than both of you. But I saw it opening night. My dad took me and my brother, and it was...
Yeah.
We had never seen anything like it.
And I mean, the extremely homoerotic undertones of Billy and Stu's relationship. Stu is in love with Billy. I'm not sure how much it's requited, because I think Billy's just, like, angry.
Yeah.
But Stu is absolutely in love with Billy. Would do anything for him.
Yeah.
The way he looks at him, like, when he, like, near the end, when they're, like, giving their little monologue to Sydney, and Stu is just kind of, like, right over his shoulder, and he just kind of, like, keeps looking over at him. Like, they're in love. They are a couple.
Oh, yeah.
It's hot.
They haven't really addressed it in, like, a direct way.
Right.
Outside of the film, but, like, there's no way.
Yeah.
Stu is a dirty little pig bottom.
Yep.
Just hungry for cum. I love you, Matthew Lillard, if you're watching this.
Speaking of, Matthew Lillard's performance, another thing that thrust this movie into
amazing.
Insane.
I mean, his unhinged performance is, and I've seen interviews with him more recently where he's like, I don't know what the hell I was doing. What was Wes letting me do? And I'm like, no, you were creating something so amazing.
It was so good.
That, like, will be, so many people have tried to do the Stu Macher thing where they're, like, overly crazy and they're like,
and
but
it's just not it.
It's just, it never works as well as it did with him. And, like, his little ad-libbed things, fight Amy with a phone, dick!
Fight Amy with a phone, dick!
My mom and dad are gonna
be so mad at me.
One of the most quotable movies of ever.
And the most quotable lines were not in the script.
No.
They just turned Matthew Lillard loose and just...
Leave her alone!
Leave her alone.
I adore his performance.
I'll be right back.
It's so good. It's so good.
I mean, obviously, you can't talk about this series without talking about Neve Campbell. She's our baby right here.
I'm wearing her right now.
Our heart.
The spirit of Sidney Prescott is around my neck.
Yes.
We keep her close.
Neve
Always.
Campbell is amazing. Just,
amazing.
There aren't words for her, truly.
She is a god in this house, and we will not take
if we were
any
doing
slander.
a podcast about Neve Campbell, like, I would have to take tomorrow off.
Yes.
Because we would go through the night.
Yeah.
And
into
we'd have
the next day.
We'd have to, like, do a full, like, baptism and eat some
just
bones of Christ or
to
something.
the west.
You
Oh,
ever
yeah.
go bones and all? You ever go bones and hair and all?
I don't know where I was going with.
Do you guys know what that...
No.
That's fine. We should probably just move on.
I'm sorry.
Is it Chop Top?
No.
My first email address was nevlover@hotmail.com.
I love that so much.
That
I
is
got
fucking
it
hilarious.
I was in 5th grade. It was when the internet was, big. I don't need to know how old you were, Jess. Thank you so much.
Okay. You sure?
But I got a Hotmail address, and it was before Scream. It was when I was in love with Neve Campbell because she was on Party of Five.
Uh-huh.
And I was just smitten with her. There was that, like, intangible quality, that, like, it factor. I was like, I don't know what it is, but I love her.
When she filmed this, she would do days at Party of Five and nights filming this, or maybe that's backwards.
Yeah.
She worked her fucking ass off.
Oh, yeah. In, like, 95, 96, it was, like...
She had already done The Craft, and she had done, 2 seasons of Party of Five, I think?
I think
Something
it
like
premiered
that.
in 94, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, as we all know, late 70s, early 80s, the slasher genre hit a huge boom. Enormous boom. We got Halloween, we got Last House was early 70s, we got Black Christmas, we got, obviously, Friday and all of its many, 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 many sequels. And by the end of the 80s, beginning of the 90s, it was all just very cheesy slasher sequels. Everyone was tired of horror. Slasher and horror were kind of just one and the same. Whenever people, non-genre fans, would talk about horror, it was, it's just a slasher, blah, blah, blah. And so they kind of dulled out, and everybody was really sick of them. And Wes not only completely reinvigorated the slasher genre, but the horror genre as a whole.
Absolutely.
After Scream, horror was meta, horror was funny, horror was fun. The characters were relatable because they knew everything you knew about the rules of horror. It literally spelled out the rules of horror as everyone already knew them. Well, you can't have sex, you can't do drugs, you can't do this.
Number 1, you can never have sex. Big no-no! Big no! I'm a dead man.
Randy literally spells that out to us. And the whole time Wes is satirizing the genre and slashers while making possibly the greatest slasher of all time. The whole franchise has some of the greatest chase scenes, which are a pivotal part of a slasher. Some of the greatest killer reveals, again, another big part. It just, its influence cannot be overstated. Like we said, there are so many movies that we would not have if this movie did not do as well as it did.
Yeah.
And part of the reason it did as well as it did, our baby Drew, Miss Sweet Drew Barrymore.
My daughter.
Yes.
For those of you who don't know, Drew Barrymore is my daughter.
How
Which
dare
makes her
you?
my sister.
How dare you put the most famous actress of your cast on the cover, on the posters,
front and center.
Here's the thing.
And kill her off in the first 10 minutes.
Here's
fucking
the thing.
genius.
Because she was originally cast as Sidney Prescott.
Yep.
And about 6 weeks before principal filming started, she, and of course, advertised the hell out of her involvement with this. Everyone was like, oh my god, Drew Barrymore's in the new Scream movie, in the new horror movie, blah, blah, blah. About 6 weeks before it started, she's like, what would be actually really fucking cool? If I died in the very first scene, and then we had someone else play Sydney, because no one will see it coming. Drew Barrymore came up with that herself.
Yep.
And Wes was like, you know what? Good idea. So then they signed on Neve Campbell as Sidney Prescott, and the audiences went fucking wild when 12 minutes into the movie, Drew Barrymore was eviscerated and hung.
I
still get chills.
I know, me too.
She is one of the reasons that this movie became what it was, because if she had been the final girl, it would have been a great movie. She can do no wrong in my eyes. But everyone would have gone in and it would have been what they expected.
Exactly.
When you go in and you see Drew and you're like, fuck yeah, she was the most famous person on the cast except for maybe Courtney Cox, because she had done a few seasons of Friends. But Drew had been a star since she was a child.
Yeah. Everyone
and
that was going to see the movie had grown up with her.
When she starts getting these calls and the killer starts going after her, the audience is like, what the fuck? Mm-hmm. And of course, I hate to say it out loud again, I was born in 1995. I did not get to see this in theaters.
I didn't either.
If I could erase the movies from my memory for a night, go back in time and be in the theater when that happened, that's one of those movies I would go back in time to see.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, yeah.
That would be...
Psycho, which does a very similar thing, kills your main character off less than halfway through the movie. I would love to go back and do that. The only one that I've ever gotten to see in theaters is the fifth one. I did not see the fourth one in theaters when it came out. I didn't see it for a few years till after it came out.
I saw the fourth and fifth one,
which is part of the reason the fifth one really does hold like so near and dear to my heart. Which Zach and I saw it together last year, and we are going to see the sixth one next month together.
I've seen all 5 of them in the theater.
I love that.
That's awesome.
I saw the original opening night in a packed house. I don't even know how we got tickets. There wasn't a single empty seat in the house. Which
That's
is
like
crazy
history.
Because it took a while. It was a word of mouth movie. It was, it started
because of the Drew
small.
thing.
Yeah, started small until people, and it was before social media, before message boards and forums. So you didn't find out about this movie until someone who saw it told you have to go see this.
Right.
And so when we got there, it was opening night, but it was still packed because so many people had seen the trailer and they were like, oh my god, it's Drew Barrymore in a scary movie. We haven't had a good scary movie in years and years and years.
And Wes is coming out
and
with
it's
one.
Wes Craven. So
horror fans are
living. I was over the moon because I grew up watching A Nightmare on Elm Street, but also Last House on the Left, and The People Under the Stairs is probably second only to the Scream franchise for me. I think The People Under the Stairs is brilliant.
Perfect.
So I was already a huge Wes Craven fan going into this. I mean, I was 11 when Scream came out, but my parents never monitored what I watched. So I was watching the goriest.
Me too. That's why we're here.
Brutal horror films. And I'm so grateful because, Leatherface, that my dad let me watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre after the divorce. It was his weekend and he didn't know what else to do with me. And he was like, let's sit him down for a movie. And honestly, it could have gone the opposite way, but all it did was ignite this deep love for all things horror. And I'm so grateful to him for that because
my dad, my dad showed me when I was really young, he showed me The Ring, Jeepers Creepers. He showed me the original It, and all of these movies scared the absolute bejesus out of me.
Oh, yeah.
But I kept going back and I want to watch another scary movie because it's so much fun. And these movies are just, there's just something in my stupid monkey brain that likes to get scared and goes, oh, look at that scare.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
I go to the haunted house and I'm just like, oh, look at that. Stupid monkey brain. There's something primal in me that just loves being scared and facing death in a fun way because I am not religious and thinking about death is very, very scary, especially when you're not religious because you're pretty 100%. Sure that's the end. I have no comfort of any sort of thought of an afterlife because I don't know what I believe or I don't believe in it. And so being able to cope with death in these fun ways that is so detached, it helps, and this genre just wouldn't be what it is without Wes and without Kevin Williamson. He then went on to write I Know What You Did Last Summer, and
I love
so good.
I do too. It's got one of my favorite chase scenes of all time. Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Oh my god, Freddie Prinze Jr. Ryan
so
Felipe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My sister used to have a Ryan Felipe poster. Tiff, I'm calling you out.
Jennifer Love Huge Tits.
Yeah. I actually thought I saw Jennifer Love Hewitt once, but it was just a park bench.
Anyway, I rewatched that movie recently, and I hadn't seen it in a while, but I've seen Scary Movie 4 million times.
Oh, yeah. So good.
Okay,
I saw that opening.
When I watch Scary Movie, I think, okay, this is when you watch Scary Movie, you think, okay, it's parody of Scream. Because Scream, first of all, the working title for Scream and the original title for Scream was Scary Movie. It was, unfortunately, fuck the Weinsteins. Bob Weinstein's idea, or maybe it was Harvey's, one of the Weinstein fucks, idea to change the movie to Scream, which... Fuck him. But yes, I think that really made a difference. So when I watch it, I think, okay, it's, it's a Scream parody, because the Drew Barrymore opening... No, most of that movie is honestly making fun of I Know What You Did.
Yeah.
Like...
It really is.
That movie's fucking funny, guys. If you haven't watched it in a while, it
holds up.
It's still fucking funny.
It's still pretty funny.
Anna Faris is everything.
It came out of nowhere. Oh my god, we hit a boat! Where's the foot? I don't know.
She has never been afraid to just do anything.
Yeah.
I love her.
I love her.
In general, like...
Fuck Chris Pratt.
Yes. House Bunny is one of my favorite comfort movies. She's...
That's odd.
Natalie.
What is that? Oh, great. You brought in The Exorcist.
Oh, anyway, so, I mean, we could talk about this first movie for the rest of our lives. But I think it's time to start moving on to the sequels. Unless anybody has anything else they want to say about the initial first one.
I said my favorite parts were Rose McGowan. Obviously Neve Campbell. I think that goes unsaid. I said lovable killers.
Yes.
Badass female characters, and the only con was R.I.P. Matt Lillard.
Yeah.
He had to go, but it still hurt.
I wrote Drew.
Yes, obviously.
I wrote 90s because this movie could have only been made in the 90s.
Yep.
Absolutely. It wouldn't have made
where it would have been the cultural phenomenon that it is.
100%.
And each movie is such a cultural zeitgeist of what was happening in that, as well as the type of movie it is. Like, as a sequel, as the trilogy, as a requel, as... It's such a time capsule of its time.
And I will say that that's what is so funny about going back and watching it now, because there's that moment where... Sheriff Burke is talking to Billy in the station, and he's like, "What are you doing with a cellular phone, son?" Lots of people have them, sir. Like, it was a time when
it's too much.
You only had a cell phone if, like, your parents had money.
Right.
If you were a teenager with a cell phone, it meant that, like, you had a giant trampoline in your backyard. So, like... It's so funny to watch it now because they've all got those Nokia fucking brick cell phones.
Oh my god.
Sydney has to call 911 online.
White woman in trouble.
Yeah. Exactly.
That shit is funny.
Somebody burnt the quiche. Oh my god.
All right.
So Scream 2?
Scream 2. Okay, so raise your hand if this is the sequel you picked as your favorite. Okay.
Yay! Talk about it.
Sorry, I had to get myself a coffee when we went on break because I just feel like when you see filmed podcasts, somebody always has a mug of coffee, and I
have a mug of champagne that I had in my backpack.
I just have water.
We all are...
I have water because I smoked so much weed on this podcast that I need something to wet my whistle.
We're not getting paid by any of these companies, but it felt like a drink commercial there for a second.
No, but if Sticky Mittens could sponsor us, that'd be great, because I buy a lot of your shit.
Can the makers of canned champagne?
Busy gal.
Or boxed wine.
Either.
Skinny.
It
Franzia?
seems that no sooner am I done watching my programs that a new magazine arrives.
Oh my god, Franzia just... brought me back. I know this totally has nothing to do with anything,
God.
But I went to a college where we would have the Tour de Franzia, like the Tour de France, and they would chug boxed wine.
I bet they were the worst fucking hangovers you ever had.
Oh god, it's just pure, it's nothing but sugar. It's, oh god. Oh.
So
I was younger and sprightlier and
heard.
Somehow lived through it.
Yep.
But anyway, Scream 2.
My favorite.
The first sequel. It was actually originally titled Scream the Sequel. And Miramax...
Scream Again was one they considered for a while.
Miramax said no.
They even did it like as a promo on the MTV Movie Awards that year. There was this like darkly lit promo with Nev, and she's like, "What would it take for you to scream? I mean, really scream." And they tagged it "Scream" again because they were still under the impression that they were going to call it that.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad they didn't, because if they were going to add a word, then it's like, where do you go from there? Is it like scream over and over?
It's like those annoying franchises that are like...
Then you get your Jasons.
Scream again and again.
Final Destination. The Final Destination. Final Destination 6.
Right.
I'm like, don't call it the end. Don't call it the fucking end.
Here is my devil's advocate argument against that, because I do agree in most cases. However, I can't differentiate the fucking Saw movies when I think about them. So if they could have a fucking subtitle, that'd be nice. Because when I'm thinking about Saw 3 through 6, I'm like, which one's the medical drama and which one has the slow? I don't know. But I love them all.
Truly. And it's so funny still to this day, if you guys haven't watched that episode, that we both have the same number one favorite kill.
Yeah. On our Final Destination and Saw top 10 kills. Good episode.
It was a really good episode.
Yeah. Do you want to kind of start talking about Scream 2?
He's like, I've been waiting.
Every one of my lists is a pro and con. I love this fucking sequel.
Okay.
Me too.
I actually didn't have a single con. This is the only one that doesn't have a con.
I wrote none, honestly.
It's my absolute favorite in the canon. I cannot say enough great things about Scream 2, but I
go ahead and try for us.
I narrowed it down to 12. Because I have my categories scorecard, which has a list for 12, and I try. That's the only way I could condense it because of the way my brain works. I'm like,
right, that's a blueprint.
Like, you have
to his brain.
You have to stop yourself at 12.
Finite.
Like, make them count. So, yeah.
This movie, amazing. Some of the coolest things about this movie are the production stories that came out of it, because obviously, as everyone knows, the script got leaked. Wes was so fucking pissed. There's like interviews where he's like, if you were one of those little fuckers, fuck you. And he's got the sweetest look on his face. He is, like, I can just tell he was the most kind-hearted person, just genuinely sweet. There is just something in his voice and his face that I genuinely think he was a great person. And when I see him in interviews and he talks about that, man, he was mad.
Yeah. Irate.
So, our original script was supposed to have 3 killers. Hallie, the roommate, was initially going to be one of the killers, which I, really wish Wes hadn't taken it so seriously and changed things, but also I get it.
I get it too.
Because fuck the people who leaked that script.
It would have been, honestly...
And no, there were supposed to be 4 killers.
Yeah, it was. Yes. It was honestly...
Laurie Metcalf. Oh, go ahead.
If they had kept it the way it was originally written on the first draft, and Hallie had been one of the killers, that would have been unprecedented. A woman of color.
A black woman.
Yeah.
That is, I mean, because 99% of the time, you know, the statistics say it's a white male.
Yeah.
Yeah, and statistics say typically the killer is a white male. And yes, there is that trope of black people die first in horror movies. So originally it was supposed to be Laurie Metcalf, of course, because Billy's mother. Billy's mother! Of course, she's avenging her son, but she had 3 accomplices. It was going to be Hallie, Timothy Oliphant's character, Mickey, who ends up being our other killer, and the boyfriend,
Derek.
Yes.
Yeah, there it is.
Derek was going to be another one, and
Jerry O'Connell.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that part I kind of like, because that moment when Sydney is about to take him down and Mickey's like, oh yeah, no, he's my accomplice, like blah, blah, blah. And Sydney takes that half a second and then he gets shot, Derek gets shot, is so traumatizing, but so important for Sydney's character for the rest of the series that I'm glad it wasn't the boyfriend as the killer again, but I wish it had been the roommate. I wish it had been Hallie, because the Mickey reveal, I only have 2 cons for this movie. One of them is the Mickey reveal, simply because you haven't seen him for 40 minutes since the cafeteria scene. Yeah. And it's only because, and like, I just wish they could have maybe edited in more scenes of him so it was like a little more satisfying, I guess I would say.
Well, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think some of the things I really love about this movie, I know that all the Scream movies are very meta and very self-aware, but I love the fact that this movie is like mocking us monetizing serial killers and like making them famous and like putting them on a pedestal essentially by making money off of these tragic things that happened. And I think it directly references that, and we see that nowadays with, you know, the Jeffrey Dahmer series and the Ted Bundy with, you know, Zac Efron. I feel like...
And just how popular true crime in general is. And obviously not all true crime is exploitative, but there is a lot at exploitative true crime out there.
So I really liked that it was referencing that so early on, because we didn't really have any other media at the time that was really kind of playing off that phenomena, you know?
Well, and Scream itself was based off of the Gainesville Ripper, a serial killer in Florida. And, I mean, honestly, it was just like a bare bones reference because it was just this guy who killed high school students in Florida. They didn't really dive deeper into the real story, but that's what inspired it. And then by the time Scream 2 rolled around and they didn't want to make just another cash grab, but there was such a high demand for a sequel. Everyone wanted to see what all these people were up to. They wanted to feel scared again. You know, it was the 90s, when a decade that was like full of sequels. Like it was, So I love that Kevin Williamson and Wes Craven were like, okay, we're going to give you what you want, but we're going to elevate it.
Yeah, and we're going to do it our way.
Yeah, and we're going to have these societal and like cultural undertones for like what's happening. Like,
and it,
that was it. That was my thought. It sounded like I was going to keep going.
No. But what was I going to say? Yeah, you were saying, you know, the 90s, this was a time, you know, when we're starting to see teenagers in tragedies like Columbine and these things that, and a lot of people think when tragedies happen that people stay away from horror. They don't want to see that. They want to block it off. But the opposite tends to happen. When tragedies strike, people flock to horror because they want that release. They want to be in that world, but it not be real. They want it to be fake. Another example, right after 9/11, Halloween Horror Nights almost didn't open that year. They almost didn't do Halloween Horror Nights at Universal that year because they thought it would be inappropriate. And it was the biggest year to date.
Wow.
Because people needed that. They needed something that wasn't real tragedy. And one of the funny things that came out of this, because initially the MPAA had like struck this thing to hell with different ratings and like just slashed all the gore to hell. And Wes at one point specifically sent the MPAA an extra gory copy of Scream 2 so that they would reject it. And because of in light of everything that had happened, they felt that the gore was actually relevant and would say something. And so that's the one that they said, you know what, that's good. You have an R rating for that one. The one that Wes was like, you know what, fuck you. I'm just going to send a gory one. And he's like, are you fucking kidding me? Because that's the thing with the MPAA. They don't really tell filmmakers, these are the scenes you need to change, and this is why, and this specific reason. They just kind of say, well, you're getting this rating. Change some stuff. And you kind of just have to figure out what they want with it. And a lot of times, you know, a lot of really cool things, especially practical gore, tends to get cut because people get slapped with NC-17s, and NC-17s can't make money because AMC is not going to play them, unfortunately.
Well, I think it's just really cool as well. Another thing that I really liked about this movie is, much like the first one, like, they killed off a very likable character very early on, like
Well-known
Randy.
actress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we love Randy. Oh, Sarah Michelle Gellar, too. Yeah, I love
Oh,
her.
no, I meant the Jada Pinkett Smith thing. The very first
Oh
scene.
my
Yeah.
god.
We start
There's
with...
so many bangers. I
Yes.
can't.
Mhm.
I keep forgetting, but we
start this movie with an incredibly
Oh,
well-known
I put that it's
actress
iconic, yeah.
and killed her off immediately. And
Mhm.
Jada Pinkett made that kill pretty fucking awesome.
It
Yeah.
was amazing, honestly, but
she absolutely went for it. I wrote that the opening of Scream 2 was unlike anything we've ever seen in horror, because she was getting killed in a theater full of people. And mind you, this is decades before people were really getting killed in theaters. Like, who knew that was going to be tragic? Foreshadowing. But after this conversation between Maureen and Phil about how horror famously excludes African Americans, how they're the first to die, you think, at least I did for the first time I saw it, that, like, at least one of them was going to get away with it.
Right.
You know, like, at least one of them was going to make it out alive. And then they just, like, flipped it on its head. And the fact that she dies with that blood-curdling scream
And that, like, back bend.
in front of everyone, and they all thought it was a publicity stunt.
Until that scream.
Mhm.
And they're like, and you
they're
could see
like,
everybody
"Oh,
just like,
no."
Start to take their
you
masks
see it-
off.
Yeah, you see it wash over them, the realization. And Jada was phenomenal
truly.
in that scene.
seriously.
And and it really did, once again, it was just like killing off Drew Barrymore, my daughter, at the beginning of the original.
My sister.
Like, anything can happen.
I don't
Uh-huh.
have
We
anything.
just killed someone. We just killed someone in a packed theater.
Mhm. And then when they kill Randy, less than halfway through the
Middle
movie?
of the fucking
Mhm.
day. In the middle of
Middle of the
fucking
Broad
day.
daylight.
public.
One
And
of the few characters that's returned, because one of the few characters that survived the first one.
That's what I was
You're
saying.
killing off
yeah.
legacy characters.
Yeah, I was like,
Anything
people
can
loved
happen.
Randy,
Yeah.
and he just, in the middle
And
of the fucking
I
day.
hate
Yeah.
that they I love it because it was necessary. It
It
meant
was.
so much to the movie.
Yeah.
It needed to happen. It made the movie even better. But yeah, I hate that we didn't get more Randy. I love
I
Randy.
know.
Jamie
It was-
Kennedy's awesome.
I met him, and he's so sweet.
Oh,
He is so sweet.
cool.
He's exactly who you want him to be. Matthew Lillard, too.
Oh my
I
God,
wanna-
yes.
Just two
Yeah.
beautiful
I want to meet Matthew. Lillard.
stand-up men.
I've met Sydney twice. I got to meet Nev twice.
I got
That
to
was
meet
cool.
Matthew Lillard twice, and I met Skeet Ulrich, and
Yep.
I met Nev Campbell. I'm sorry, Casey.
Justin Long stared at her tits one time.
That
I
is
was
true.
there. Can confirm.
I'll
Can
upload the
confirm.
live video at some point. It's hilarious.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
it's a story in 3 pictures.
It
Uh,
really is.
He was trying to get deeper creeper.
She would have let him.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
At any point in my life, yeah.
My only other complaint with this movie, and I feel that it is a common complaint, not only among fans, but also among the actors as they filmed it, the fucking cafeteria scene. I can't. It hurts to watch.
It's so cringe.
It is really cringe,
Like,
but I like
honestly,
that about it.
kudos to Jerry O'Connell for doing
For
it,
doing
because
it.
he did not want to.
Take after take,
Oh, and he
full set.
and he put his heart into it, but Jesus Christ, every time I watch it, I'm just like,
Yeah.
it's a reference to
Top Gun.
Top Gun, and I didn't like that. I didn't like it in that movie, so
I was talking to
I think
Robert
I love you.
at home
Oh, God.
about that particular scene and how it is so cringe,
Mhm.
yes,
but it's a product of its time, and the 90s were flush with scenes in movies, especially driven towards teens, where like someone confessed their love in songs,
Oh,
which to
yeah.
me feels like an assault. Like, do not sing at me in front of all of my friends. Like, that's That's a
I
one.
am
That's
not
a one-way
mentally
ticket
well.
to you not
Dedicating a
getting
song to
laid.
someone is totally different than you literally
Yeah.
just like.
Sing me a song at karaoke. Like, no.
Don't High School Musical
Know your
get up on a
place.
table and.
But this was like
Oh my god.
shortly after
Can
Scream.
we go karaokeing sometime? No one karaoke's with me. Anyway, go ahead.
I literally have a
Absolutely.
karaoke machine at my
Oh,
house.
okay, we're gonna have to do that. Sorry. Go ahead.
So, 10 Things I Hate About You came out after Scream 2, and Heath Ledger did it to Julia Stiles.
Mhm.
But there was this small window of time where almost every movie geared towards teens, had an impromptu dance that somehow everyone knew the choreography for, even though they didn't rehearse. There was like an impromptu singing situation where you were trying to prove how much you love someone by embarrassing them in front of the whole school.
And instead of everyone cringing and being like, "Oh my god," like they
They're
would in real life, they're like,
getting into
"Yeah."
it.
Timothy Olyphant in that fucking scene, he's just like
Yeah.
the
And,
worst
like, he
dance moves.
Tips
The
him.
fucking-
He tips him.
It's
so cheesy, but I actually don't hate it.
I thought it was
because
really fun.
It
Because it was so cringe.
yeah, and it's a product of its time. It's
It
like
is.
an
100%.
allusion to
Yeah.
the '90s when they could get away with that. I even wrote that.
One of my favorite things about this movie, though, is the fleshing out of Sydney and Dewey's brother-sister relationship.
Mhm.
He is absolutely their surrogate brother. I mean, he lost his younger sister. Obviously, his sister's best friend is going to become his new little sister.
Mhm.
And not only their relationship, but this is when we first get, the very first time, Dewey's motif song. When we get that little and it's in every other movie,
Yeah.
and I
It's
die
like
for
Marco
that song.
Bellontri, I think.
Yeah,
Maybe
Was
Marco
it?
Beltrami.
Beltrami.
Beltrami,
Yeah.
yep. And then, of
Um,
course, what's the song that's in all of them except for 4?
Red Right Hand.
Red Right
Red Right
Hand.
Hand.
Yes, that's the Scream song.
That is the Scream.
That is the Scream song.
Yes.
Nick Cave in the Bad Seeds.
Oh
It's
my
on
god.
Everyone but 4.
I'm gonna say, spoiler alert, it's one of the reasons that the sequel I chose edged out 4. Because until this day, today that we are recording, 4's been my favorite.
Yeah.
And you guys are gonna figure out which one's my favorite instead. So,
Okay, let's move on to Scream 3. If
does
Scream
anybody
3
else
is your
have any,
favorite.
Oh, before we move on
Yeah, of
from
course,
Scream
yeah.
2, there's a few more items.
No, yeah,
I
of
need to. Otherwise,
don't rush him.
I know. I appreciate you trying to segue because none of us can be trusted to stay on
No,
topic.
that's so true.
But, I will have serious FOMO if I don't say these.
Go ahead.
So I'm just gonna try to Cliff's Notes it. Okay. Which ones did I not cover? Oh. Sydney's hair is the best it ever will be in the canon, as is Gail's. Nice streaks. It's the only time Courtney Cox's hair has looked good in a single Scream movie.
That's wrong because her hair looks so good in the new one. Scream 5, her hair looks incredible. Her face looks okay. Those streaks.
Oh, I love those streaks.
I love the
Again,
streaks. I
product
love
of their
that
time,
shitty
because
fashion.
in
Like
the
the shitty
90s
fucking...
So
you had
90s.
chunky streaks.
In the 90s, my stepmom was putting the cap on me and pulling my hair through it and frosting
Yep.
the tips of my hair.
Oh,
Yeah.
we
and
all
it
have.
looked heinous. But you couldn't tell me nothing
tell
when
me
I had my
Nothing.
frosted tips.
She actually, and the thing is, she almost pulls it off.
Mm-hmm.
It's the red. I really like her with the
It's
red.
the red.
And it's
her
not those
calf
bangs in
implants.
3.
It's her calf implants.
Oh.
I just think that Gail looked fucking stunning throughout Scream 2.
That is
Oh,
one
Her
100%.
wardrobe, her hair, her
1997
body
Courtney
language.
Cox
Yeah,
is
just
peak.
peak Courtney Cox.
Truly.
100%.
I also wrote, I love that it's a college campus because the killer really could be anywhere.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Whereas in the original, it was condensed to sets
Yep.
where they're either in the school or they're at Stu Macher's house or they're in the police station. Like, it felt very claustrophobic. The fact that they were on this huge college campus, to me, made it scarier because he could be anywhere.
And
100%.
anyone.
Yeah.
Anyone at any time. Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that the scene in Scream 2 where Ghostface has Gail locked in a room that's lined with soundproof walls in the recording studio, That's my favorite chase scene
Mm-hmm.
of the entire canon. Like, even though it's slow and it feels like a silent ballet, the way it's choreographed, the two of them just missing each other, and it's fucking terrifying. Because the first time I saw it, every time I was like, he's going to see her profile. Like, he's going to, one of these times, he's going to be around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
And he never was. And the tension that it builds, it's also, I got a very similar feeling when Sydney and Hallie are stuck in that cop car after it crashes. And they have to crawl over an unconscious killer.
And that was a last minute rewrite because of the script leak.
Mm-hmm.
And Nev had to do that, like that back bend through the back of it, like with no training or anything. Of course, Nev's
She's
a dancer. Yeah, so she has...
It was fine.
She's amazing, of course. But, yeah, that crash is absolutely
terrifying.
And go ahead.
I was just going to say the pull through the cop's head and the ear.
The twitch.
And the way he's twitching on the gun. It's so gory. And we didn't have that in the first one.
Yeah.
Because they were trying so hard to get away with an R rating.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the second one, it was like all bets were off.
Yep.
And it got bloodier. Randy says it.
Yes.
More blood, more gore, carnage, candy.
There's going to be more bodies, more blood.
Yeah. The body count was insane.
Yes.
And to me, that is just pure unbridled terror when they have to crawl over the killer.
Yes.
And
when
her elbow hit the horn, and I thought it was all over.
And I myself for a long time thought, why doesn't she just take the mask off then? Imagine you're already terrified.
Mm-hmm.
And then that single beep,
Yeah.
you're like, I just gotta get out of this fucking car or I'm gonna die.
Oh, 100%.
Hallie in the back seat, don't do that again.
Don't do that again.
Ugh.
One thing I did forget to mention from the first one, Dewey was originally scripted to die.
Mm-hmm.
They filmed his death, so he was supposed to die, when he falls on the porch. And at the end of the movie, the first take they did, he was dead on the stretcher. They bring him out. They did another take, and Wes said, you know what? Throw your hand up or smile or something so that they know you're alive. And he does the little thing. And that is the only reason that we have Dewey for all the other sequels, is because Wes was like, you know what? I don't know. Let's let him live.
We might keep you around.
Last second, and he
Put a
ends up
pin in
being
that.
the heart of this franchise.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, not only
Yeah.
is it our number one couple relationship, Dewey and Gale is, that's our love interest of it. The Sydney and Dewey relationship. I mean,
It's
he is
so
the heart
special.
of the franchise.
Yeah.
So pure.
He is the sweetest. He is the most pure. He is always trying to do the right thing. He's amazing. And the fact that he was originally slated to die, this franchise wouldn't have been what it is.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
I was just going to say that my sister, again, stories about her, but she went to a haunted house and part of it was you had to crawl over, you were in a car and you had to crawl over Ghostface's lap to get through.
It's a hard no for me.
And my sister said it was one of the scariest things.
Nope.
Oh, I love that.
Nope, not even a little bit.
But that's what I was going to say. Should we
I
take a
also
break?
wrote that Scream 2, in my humble opinion, has the best soundtrack. It's just the quintessential 90s soundtrack.
So
It's
good.
Sugar Ray,
I fucking
Collective
love Sugar
Soul.
Ray.
Less Than Jake did the cover of I Think I Love You.
Yep. We get our Dewey motif.
You get Red Right Hand for the first time on a soundtrack. It just chef's kiss.
Perfect. Absolutely.
I also wrote Buffy dies. Are you kidding me? Because again, we had been watching Sarah Michelle Gellar kick ass on TV every week, battling demons from the underworld.
And she gets tossed.
One guy with a knife took her out.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking when I first saw it, if he was just going to throw her over the edge, why did he stab her twice? And it's because they had to rule out suicide. They had to stay one step ahead of the cops.
Yep.
And who's on the scene first? Miss Debbie Salt, played by Laurie Metcalf.
Her dead acting face is so good.
Oh, yeah. Where it's just blank. There's
Holy
so much going on
shit.
behind the eyes, but
Is that
she
what...
just...
is that what acting in Roseanne gets you?
Well, if you have to work with Roseanne for 9 seasons,
You just get dead face.
you're dead inside.
Absolutely.
Like,
Yeah, Laurie Metcalf. We haven't really talked about her a lot, but wow, she does so good.
Her performance is so good.
She's so manic.
oh, I spilled a little.
It's okay.
It's water.
It's
Got it.
yeah, I think she maybe gets a little looked over too.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, she's great.
She's my favorite killer in the entire canon.
Oh, I
And
love
for me, that was one of the main reasons this one is like so near and dear to my heart, because I watched Roseanne every week in real time, and I watched it specifically for Aunt Jackie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't normally get someone who's like raised in theater. She was a theater kid, and she had just done these amazing stage productions, and then for her to parlay that into like sitcom work, and she was doing it to like on a level that no one else in the game was. Like, she's absolutely one of the greats. So when it's revealed that this auxiliary character that we really only see like 2 times, and she's just a punching bag for Gale Weathers,
Right.
like she's never on your radar for a moment. And then she walks in and you're like, who the fuck is this
And
bitch?
the coolest thing about it is when that reveal happens, Mickey says something, my accomplice, and Gail walks through the door, and you're like, Gail? And
You're
then
like, no
she
fucking way.
looks behind her,
Yeah.
and she goes, Mrs. Loomis?
Yeah.
Billy's mother.
Billy's mother.
I will
Yeah.
never stop quoting
Gagged.
that. I'm sorry. I can't.
Gagged.
All right. So, are we ready to move on?
The only thing I have left is Timothy Oliphant could destroy me. And it's so true, especially once he's revealed it. He's the killer. Like,
Yeah.
I like him damaged. And then
We
he had,
all do.
He had blood on his face. He was wild-eyed and crazy. Like,
Oh, it was very hot.
so
Yeah.
fucking hot.
He does
So, yeah,
do a good
the-
job. With
the-
with how unsatisfying the character reveal is,
Mhm.
Timothy Oliphant, I can't say anything bad about his performance.
And I do like the idea that because the internet was becoming just starting to take off, and people were finally having it in their homes, and you could get online in the school computer at the library. Like, I know I'm considerably older than you, but I can remember a time.
Hey, you had to put in your proxy
when
servers
if
to be
you
able to
wanted
get
the
through the
lyrics
blocked
to a
ones.
song, you had to listen to it 10 times in a row and write it down in your Mead notebook.
Hey, I've
Wide
written
rule.
the lyrics to many a song.
I'm just saying, we didn't have AZ lyrics. We didn't have Shazam. There were times when if I didn't know what a song was called or who sang it, I had to call the radio station and sing it to the DJ and hope that they knew. That's how I found out Summer Girls by LFO was a thing. I sang that to a DJ.
I miss calling
And I just
in-
volunteered that information.
Yeah,
Nobody
I literally,
made me.
I didn't even.
Nobody asked.
I
Okay.
miss calling into radio stations and requesting songs.
I do too. Like, Spotify has changed my life for the better, but there was that small part of me that's like, oh man.
Can you play My Happy Ending by Avril Lavigne, please? And then I'd listen for an hour just to see if they'd play it, and they sometimes did.
You know I fuck with that really.
Oh, I
That's-
fucking.
That's
love
honestly that's
Avril
another
Lavigne.
podcast if we're being real.
Yes.
But yeah, oh, and I also wrote for Scream 2, Liev Schreiber being the unlikely comic relief.
And Liev Schreiber coming back
Killing it.
after
yes.
a in-screen, in the movie cameo where he just walks up some stairs.
Yeah,
as Cotton
in an
Weary.
orange jumpsuit.
Yeah.
And the idea, that's Kevin Williamson is just, he's one of the greats, because the idea that, like, yeah, he sat in prison for a murder he didn't commit, and now he's coming face to face with the woman who put him there.
But he just wants
He
for everyone to know he's innocent. He
And
just
to
wants
live
to
a
be
normal
treated
life.
like
Yeah.
he was before.
He doesn't want people to cower in fear.
Well, he
when
wants
they see
fame,
him.
but
Yeah.
yes.
And he also wants fame, and honestly, he
Who
deserves
doesn't?
it.
Yeah.
And it speaks to
And yeah, if you spent that long in prison for a crime you didn't commit,
yeah.
You deserve something.
just for
brother.
sleeping with a woman, like
Yeah.
And honestly, when Gail says the killer is Cotton Weary,
fucking
it makes sense. And you're like, oh yeah, that tracks. And then for him to like come in, be the comic relief because he didn't say a word in the first one, and he was so dark and brooding, and they made him the red herring when he interacted with Sydney in the library, and you're like, this is a killer. Like, even if he's not the killer, this guy is capable of killing.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
he has so much pent up rage and aggression, and he was finally out in aggression. I said aggression. And that's going to bug me if I don't right my wrong. I wrote, this is the only time I liked Liev Schreiber, like ever, because Ray Donovan is unwatchable. And he was such a fucking dick in Scream 3. So, like, Scream 2, that for me is
and
just...
X-Men Origins Wolverine or whatever, that movie sucked.
Not good.
I don't even like those kind of movies, but I saw that one. Last thing I will say about Scream 2, since he did bring up Cotton Weary, another one of the original script writes was Cotton Weary shoots Laurie Metcalf and then still has Sydney at gunpoint, realizes he's pissed at her for putting him in prison. They have a chase scene and end up stabbing each other to death and dying next to each other. And I am so glad. First of all, obviously, I'm glad Sydney didn't die.
Yeah.
But also just so glad, because it, like, yeah, Cotton seems very unhinged, but I didn't see him killing because I see him being so afraid of being called a killer.
Right.
And yeah, he did shoot Laurie Metcalf, but he's the hero in that sense.
Yeah.
He's not killing the Sidney Prescott.
Well, and they also did that fake out where they're both lying there motionless and you don't know which one is dead.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing it in the theater, and when Sidney Prescott is lying there and she hasn't coughed and started to breathe yet, and there's that just split second where you think she's dead, it was the first time I ever clutched my pearls. Like, I did like the audible gay gasp pearl clutch combo. And my mom, who took me to see the movie, turns to me and she goes, "It's just a movie, buddy."
No, it's
Like,
not.
No, it's not. This is my life. These are my friends.
Oh, Jesus.
And they're made out of gin boxes. Anyway, Scream 2 is my favorite. No one can convince me that it's not a perfect film.
And we won't try to.
Start to finish. I'm glad I made myself narrow it down to 12 because I've got 15 other points we could talk about, but we have to move on to Scream 3. We have to move on.
Yes, so... Okay, so we are going to do a little half midway break because we could not stop talking about all of these. We should have known this was going to happen.
We don't know how to shut the fuck up.
I mean, there are 5 of these movies. So, and yes.
And very passionate people who all love to talk.
None of us know how to shut the fuck up.
That is true.
So we're going to take a halfway break. This is going to come out in 2 parts. So the other half of this video, 3 through 5, will be... in a separate video, but it won't come out a week later. It'll come out like the next day or something. So I just don't want a 2.5 hour long video.
Yes.
So
we actually needed a cliffhanger because this was a 2-hour podcast.
This has been going on forever. I'm so happy. Anyway,
I'm having a great time.
Yes. I live here now.
So until tomorrow or the next day when you get your next video, stay spooky. Bye.